I am Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book, and in this video we're going to be giving our reactions to the premiere episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow on the CW network. So let's start with the positives. Jason, what did you see as some of the things that you liked about this show in its, pilot episode?
Well, the major thing that I did like that I was concerned about was whenever you had too many characters to an episode, a TV show, a movie, anything like that, it kind of becomes sometimes too many ideas, too much going on, and it gets a little bit out of hand. But they did a good job letting all the characters have moments in the show. Thought the tone was pretty good. It was a little bit fun. I had kind of a sci-fi element. I heard somebody say earlier today that they thought it was kind of like Star Trek meets superheroes with the time travel and the spaceship kind of thing. And so I did like it. It's got a lot of potential with the time travel thing, as long as they don't end up kind of being like a Quantum Leap type show where every episode they're like, well, what happens next? You better tune in next time.
Yeah, and if they pull out of a time zone and go somewhere else, just every episode, then it sort of can lose some power because it's like, well, they're just going to jump out of there and jump somewhere totally different anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they've got this Kronos character to kind of follow them around, maybe as a persistent threat. But I agree with you. I don't want them jumping too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I had a lot of positives. I mean, overall, my reaction was positive to it.
Yeah.
I liked the tone, and I think it's good that they were having a little bit of fun with it because if you're going to do time travel, I think you need to make it more of a fun tone.
Yeah.
Because if you go too serious with time travel, then it gets too easy to just poke holes in the time travel because it's logically impossible to have that. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that
Right.
was good that they had a little fun with it. I really liked the Rip Hunter character. I thought he worked well.
Strong. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was good. And I agree with you about like the first episode is probably the hardest thing to handle all the characters because you want to establish all of them in a fair way. Once you get going down in the later episodes, you can sort of like emphasize a couple more this episode, but then emphasize a different one in the next episode. But in the beginning, you got to try to get all of them off the ground.
Yeah.
And I thought they pretty much accomplished that. So overall, I give them high marks for that because it's very challenging to achieve. I also thought right off the bat they did a good job of establishing the threat of Vandal Savage. And in the episode overall, I thought they did a smart thing from a writing perspective of they made it a general threat of Vandal Savage kind of taking over the world, but they also made it a personal issue with eventually, so spoilers here, but eventually with Rip Hunter and the loss of his wife and son.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now we have a personal connection to the threat, but we also have a general threat that this is important sort of globally.
Yeah, I like that they did that because, to tell you the truth, the other aspect of Vandal Savage has been already explored in the Hawk Girl and Hawkman characters in the Arrow episode and Flash crossover. And to tell you the truth, they're not my favorites in the show. I kind of like get enough of them already, and I like it to be more about the Rip Hunter thing, but also. I think as they go back in time or go forward, we'll have connections personally to each of the characters in the show, and that'll give it some more weight as well.
Yeah. I agree. Hawk Girl and Hawk Man, I haven't been won over as much for them as some of the other characters that I really like.
Yeah.
One thing I liked, though, was in pulling the team together. I liked how they had, right away in the first segment of the episode, they pulled the team together, and Rip Hunter's like, okay, I'm going to recruit these 8 people.
Yeah.
But I liked it how they were first recruited under false pretenses, and then later they had to be re-recruited to under the kind of honest pretenses.
Yeah.
And I like that it's like, okay, we actually have to get everybody on board twice.
Yeah.
And I thought that worked pretty well.
Yeah, I think it worked well for the show, and it's got a lot of potential going forward. We'll see what happens, but one thing about the Vandal Savage thing, just mentioning this quick, is that I like that being like for the general villain of the whole show, but I wonder if that could possibly ever lose steam, just being like the only kind of thing they're chasing the entire series. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it could be a potential concern. They've introduced this Kronos character who's
Yeah,
the
which
bounty
is
hunter
cool.
that's coming after them. But that one, he's only coming after them because, like, it's only important because they're trying to stop Vandal Savage. So even the reason that it's important for them not to get caught is because they're trying to catch Vandal. So you're right
Yeah.
that it still all kind of hinges on Vandal Savage.
Yeah.
And that was so I had two main negative things. One was the battle with Kronos. So I thought it was good that they introduced Kronos as a sort of a impetus for the plot to sort of be pushed forward and give it a little more excitement.
Right.
But the battle with Kronos, I felt like so it's one guy with a gun, and they just shot it in a way that it made it seem way bigger. I'm like, wait a minute, that's one guy with a gun, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if I watched it again, it's kind of like they were trying to make it into this big thing, and I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was one guy coming after you.
Yeah, actually, this leads me into a negative into a positive for the show is that that part I felt like the Firestorm character got robbed because I totally thought it was going to be like they wouldn't be able to get back to the ship and that the old dude and the kid didn't actually need to touch to become Firestorm. So I thought it was just going to be they'd have to be close enough. Firestorm would activate, take him down, and the guy would escape, to come back another time. But I thought the Firestorm character with the professor and the young African American kid was awesome. So much better than the Stephen Amell's brother on Flash
Robbie,
and stuff.
yeah.
Like, really, I was a big Firestorm fan as a kid, and I really liked their kind of the way they interact. And, like, to me, they'd be interesting enough to watch. Probably not in their own show, but as kind of starring in their own episode of the show for sure.
Yeah, I didn't feel good about the drugging and kidnapping type thing.
Yeah, that was kind of sketchy. Yeah,
But it worked because they resolved it by the end. So it's kind of they knew that was a sort of a pretty shaky thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I agree with you. I liked the interactions there. I look forward to the development of that. I think there's good story potential for that.
Yeah, totally.
My only other negative was the bar fight scene. I
it's kinda cheesy.
felt like it was sort of a forced way to give those characters something to do and to get another little action scene in there.
Yeah.
But it felt too contrived. It didn't. Yeah, so that was one thing for me.
Yeah, totally, man. And then another thing is too, it's small, but with these shows, if you are doing a time travel show, you kind of do need to blend in a bit. Like, you're not going to be wearing like a white leather fighting suit in a 70s bar. Like, they would be wearing collars that are bigger and just kind of, general clothes of the time. Otherwise, people would constantly be staring at them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like the ship would have to have some sort of stock for being able to do that, or some sort of technology to allow you to blend in.
Yeah, I see in the teaser that was for the whole show overall, the African American dude in the next episode, I think, has like some big 70s collar going on. So maybe something will happen with that.
Okay. Yeah, overall, I was pretty excited, though. It's something where I do want to see where they go next, and I want to follow this team as they kind of develop. So in that sense, even though it wasn't perfect, I know pilots are really hard, especially a team pilot, but I think it was overall pretty good. I'm also kind of intrigued that it was directed by Glenn Winter, who people might not know, but he just is making a career of directing the pilots, because he directed Supergirl's pilot,
Oh, wow.
this pilot, he directed the Flash pilot. I don't know if
Interesting.
he's maybe done Arrow. I haven't actually checked to confirm that, but I'm like, wow, they get the same guy to kick off each of these shows.
It's funny though, because it really feels like the other shows, but in a way it felt very unique, like to me, to make it interesting enough to want to watch it, versus I watched Arrow last night and like it's just really not doing anything different than it's done before. And this show was kind of nice to see something with a different flavor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Arrow's done a good job of kicking some of this stuff off, but I actually like The Flash quite a bit better than
Yeah,
Arrow. And then
me
this
too.
show, I'm sort of just more excited to maybe have fun with this show more so than Arrow, too. So Arrow's the grandfather of this, but it's not actually my favorite of the group.
Yeah, totally. And with this show, they've got the potential to show some nice DC cameos with each time they go into. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to, in Season 2, maybe seeing some Booster Gold or something like that.
Nice. Yeah, that would be pretty cool, man.
All right, well, thanks for debriefing the pilot here with me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for sure.